Just as we were getting going here to kick off this edition of Only Weird Games, Seth Keysor alerted Nate Taylor and myself that the flu is currently making its way through the Keysor household, which I can imagine is going to be causing all sorts of problems. But, Chiefs fans, I do want you to differentiate that pit in your stomach that you've been feeling for the last couple of days. Unfortunately, I do not have any sort of antiviral medication for that one. Maybe the recipe to feeling better is Kingsley Suamata Ia? Welcome to the off season, baby. It's anything but off. I'm sorry to exclude the audio audience on that one, but Tucker D. Franklin has debuted the new bumper. We're going to have a whole bunch of new good stuff like that across KCSN, but we have debuted the Chiefs intro here on the KCSN YouTube channel. I'm Joshua Brisco, by the way. Of course, you can listen to the show wherever you get your podcasts in the KCSN feed, which is already jam-packed with off-season content, like the fact that Tucker and I and one old BJ Kissel were live the morning of the Joe Thuney trade to break that down in the breaking news team. The Lab went live last night. They talked about it. We're here to talk about Joe Thuney today, plus just talking about it with Tucker before the show. Draft content coming from all angles on that KCSN feed, of course, on YouTube, on the podcast feed. But if you want to see what Tucker's been working on, you got to at least watch the intro. As we are really getting off on an energetic foot here today, which may be good considering the energy that we're going to need. Kind of a weird one today, guys, although what's weird about it being weird?
Well, incredible bumper, Mr. D.
I like that pivot, actually. That's really
Mr.
good.
D. I mean, for, domination. Look, Tucker's been telling us about this for a little bit, and so it's great to see it in all of its fruition, because we're donning a new era. And as this was unveiled to me by one Tucker D. Franklin, D stands for high definition. I was squinting because I was like, "Is Joe Thuney in this video? Where's he at? Where's Joe Thuney? Where is he? Where is he doing? Oh, look at that perfect pass blocking. Oh wait, he got traded. So there's been some heavy editing that's been done.
I like the Ronnie Stanley highlight in there, Tucker. That's a good called shot by
interesting.
you.
Yeah, how about that? Where did that come from? Look, you know that I love Diana Rossini, my colleague here at The Athletic. And
I do know that.
Yes, you do know this. Hi, Diana.
I'm keeping myself engaged today because I never know when Josh is about to zoom in on just me, and Jazz is watching today.
Hi, Jazz.
Hi, apparently, she's always watching.
Did you a favor, Jazz? Go ahead, Nate.
Yep. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's nice to have the spotlight for once. So, look, me and Diana worked together on what occurred yesterday morning, and it was very clear to us that a lot of people in Kansas City were probably not going to be thrilled. And then it occurred to me, well, if we know something, does he know it? And when I mean him, do I mean, well, how are they going to inform the robot of this? And ladies and gentlemen, I have saved this little bit of nugget, cherry on top, whatever you want to. It's more like, and I want everybody to understand this. When you bring the fish out and it's looking glorious, whether it was, grilled, broiled, baked, whatever your choosing of cooking is, when that fish comes out, and then when you squeeze the lemon on top, that's what we're doing right now. Ladies and gentlemen, the robot was not in America when he learned that he was no longer a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is one reason why that trade got out at 8:30 a.m. on a Wednesday.
It's a brutal market. So Nate, when you say learned, could someone infer from that that this was surprising news to Josephaniel Thuney? I don't know what the Joe's short.
Most likely Joseph.
Joseph, yeah, it's Joseph
Be my
Thuney.
guess.
Yes,
I'm gonna rule that out. That sounds ridiculous. I hope you know how dumb you sound right now, John.
His Pro Football Reference page actually doesn't have a middle name, which makes sense because his actual full name is Joe Thuney 1.0. So
sure. So can one infer from that? Because as you guys recall, last week, I had to ask you guys a lot of questions about what you were implying about me recording from a new location.
Yes.
So I'll make sure I don't infer the wrong thing from what you might be implying. Is that that's when Joe Thuney learned it as, hey, the Chiefs traded you?
Yes. I believe he was last to know.
Like, he didn't find that on Twitter. It was, hey, just so you know, we did this.
It's happening. Yeah. It's done. Yes.
That's like, the Chiefs operate better in that capacity than like the Cleveland Browns.
Correct.
So congratulations, Chiefs.
Correct.
It's a brutal industry.
Yeah.
It's a brutal game.
Right. And again, you think the cycles are going to be longer. They're in fact shorter. You know, I want to remind people that this is not as devastating.
Yeah.
But it's similar, but it's not as devastating as it was in 2021 when the Chiefs on the same day swiftly cut Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz.
That was a
on
day.
The same day at the same time.
We were all in denial at that point. We're like, no, Mitch will be back next year. And Eric Fisher, yeah, sure, he tore his ACL really late in the season, but he'll probably be okay. And then, boom, we released both. And
we were telling ourselves that because Brett Veach told us that.
Also,
Brett, like the day of.
Also,
and I get that a lot of this is secrecy. I get all that stuff. I get that they're paid a ton of money. I get all that. But I will note it's a brutal business. Yes. I'm going to read a tweet from February 21st in the year of our Lord 2025. Definition of a team player. This year's Derek Thomas MVP award goes to Joseph Thuney. They've got a great picture of him there pretending not to be a robot, and he's actually got like some expression on his face. The team tweeted that out.
Yes.
Less than 2 weeks before they traded him. They were in trade talks as they tweeted that out. And by the way, that's not the social media team's fault. Anytime the team does something that upsets you, don't reply to the social. Those people don't want to do. They
might know, but they honestly might not. And that's kind of the point.
One of my favorite, I don't remember what team account did it, and they probably took it down. It was probably like the Chargers team account because their social media people are always hysterical. But there was some version of like someone tweeted out like, please don't yell at us. We don't make the football decisions or something like that. And that's just it. Something horrible can happen, and they have to tweet out final score, Chiefs, whatever, Eagles, whatever. It's not their fault. They have to tweet that out. And if they don't, their boss is going to get mad at them. But it's a brutal industry.
You would
for a reason, and I get it. It's a brutal industry on both sides, but that's why. And I'm not saying the way that it all went down was correct, but that's why when Chris Jones is sitting in the stands, holding out for more money, and again, the way it all went down, the way his agents decided to do it, didn't really get him more money, but whatever. That's why I don't throw a fit, because ultimately, the team is always going to do what it thinks is best for the team and should. That's part of it. And so ultimately the player, while you're part of the team, of course, you do what's best for the team, right? In terms of practice, in terms of all that. But in terms of contract stuff.
I want to say this real quick too, Seth, to your point. No one had done more for the team, literally, than Patrick Mahomes and Joe Thuney.
Oh, absolutely. And
Like,
he's
cannot
loved
stress
in
that
that
enough.
locker room.
Yes,
He's
beloved.
I have
Everybody
a
loves
lot-
Joe Thuney. True professional, great guy. If you can get him to string 3 sentences together, and did something that was not in his contract. Did something that was not in his responsibilities. He had to go above and beyond. And I wrote this in The Athletic yesterday. He went above and beyond so that Patrick Mahomes had just enough time to carry the offense to the Super Bowl. So it's like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Thuney, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and beyond. And that's why his teammates voted for him as the team MVP when Patrick Mahomes exists. Like, it's wild. And so, Josh, where do you think this man was when he learned the news, given he was not in the country? This is like watching White Lotus and then realizing, oh my God, this might be worse than White Lotus, minus the death part. Somebody's dying, because that's kind of the show. But Joe Thuney's not dying, but it's not great.
I want to go ahead and take one of our breaks early on here, and I feel like that we've all gotten some feelings out, and we can talk a little bit about how this trade unfolded, why they made this move, and where this leaves the left tackle situation now. Before we do that, Seth, you said something a second ago. I just want to double check. What was Joe Thuney's Twitter handle? I think you said it earlier.
Oh man, the Chiefs didn't even get his Twitter handle right.
Nope.
At Joseph.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
By the way, at Joseph Thuney, who the Chiefs did correctly tag, his last tweet of his own was in March 2020 when he quote tweeted Neil deGrasse Tyson tweeting a 3-minute and 15-second segment from Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and Ode to Joy.
So even his Twitter account is a bot.
One of a kind.
Disagree. It's amazing, he writes. A little pick-me-up on Sunday morning. Remember to stay home. He was there for the people in the midst of COVID saying, hey, let's pick me up. Let's enjoy some classical music. And presumably, let's get into some pass sets. I mean, the guy's I would say he's an animal. That's not correct. The man is a robot who appreciates classical music. But he is now a member of the Chicago Bears. The Chiefs trade Joe Thuney to Chicago for a 2026 4th-round pick.
But Josh, it's 2025.
It is, Seth. I do find that to be an interesting little note from you. I appreciate you adding that one because it is, in fact, 2025. This year's draft just around the corner. This will be the year after that. Nate, let's go through some of the building of this trade. And no, Seth looks like he wants to say something, so we're gonna let Seth talk first.
No, I was just gonna ask you if that's the year before 2027, and then I rightfully holstered it.
Not well enough. The gun was out. You didn't pull the trigger, but I saw the gun pointed at me.
Your dog today? What did I do something unintentionally to upset you?
No, I just thought you were gonna say something useful because your mouth was open, and I realized that's on me. That's my bad assumption. But like that's just genuinely what I was seeing happening was you were kind of rearing back. Like, well, maybe he wants to get something in before we start doing the trade talk stuff.
It's been 7 years, Josh.
Yeah, you would think I would. You think I would have given up by now? But amazingly, somehow I haven't. It's a testament. Human spirit.
Yeah, it is a testament to the human spirit. There's a few things that I watch when I want to get psyched up. And one of them,
you know what I can do now, actually, with all these controls?
What? Oh, man, that's not what I expected. So Josh is gone. Nate, look at me. I'm the captain now. So Nate,
Sure.
I want to.
Even better. I know that some people have wondered, was there some discussion about a contract extension before they, eventually traded Joe Thuney? I don't get that sense. I get the sense that once the Chiefs realized that the clearest path towards rebuilding the offensive line was retaining Trey Smith, who again was the most coveted offensive lineman in this year's free agency, which is a weakened, watered down, not your grandfather's, free agency period that we've all come to understand now. Once you feel like you've gotten some parameters in place and you can use a franchise tag to dissuade teams from stop sniffing Trey Smith, then you pick the younger player, and now it's untenable from a business standpoint, given the cash that you're asking Clark Hunt to spend for him to pay the final year of a, pretty nice contract for Joe Thuney. Obviously you've already made Creed Humphrey the highest paid center, and you are projected to make Trey Smith the highest paid guard in the league. Once they felt they could get to a extension with Trey Smith, who is the younger player, the more ascending player, now it is time to do something that, from a perception seems unfavorable to a valuable, loyal, all-pro player. But that player does want a contract extension, and you can't offer it. And so it is better to be early than late. And once one team that you feel comfortable with is going to do right by the player that you traded, well, then, okay, we really don't have a ton of leverage, which is why there was no draft picks from this year, Seth, offered to the Chiefs. So now, because you don't have leverage, because you don't have, you can't maximize as much leverage as you want, because every team knows you're paying Trey Smith because you franchise tagged him with the appearance of, with the plan of franchise tagging him. Well, we got to get something back. I got to leave with something. And the Chicago Bears are one of the few teams, let's say the Commanders and the Patriots, who felt comfortable with enough cap space, quarterback on a rookie contract, which, as I just said, Bears, Patriots, Commanders, where you feel like you can layer those contracts accordingly. You can keep Joe Thuney near the high mark, not the highest paid, obviously, but near the top of his position in terms of annual salary over maybe a 2, maybe 3-year extension where you cut up this year's contract. And obviously you spread that money over the next 3 seasons starting in 2025. I know that's something that's going to be discussed in Chicago. And so you can make this decision understanding that you need a draft pick. You need some level of compensation. But I understand, well, why is it next year's pick and not this year's pick? Well, you didn't have the leverage, and because Joe Thuney's 33, or he will be 33 when the season gets underway next season, it's better to be early, and it's better to get something versus nothing. And you were not going to, you had no viability to have all 3 of these guys. Despite the fact that they were the best interior over a 3-year period, you can't pay all 3 of them. So you go with the 2 younger options. And now we know that Kingsley Suamataia has a position to play because you've invested a 2nd-round pick. And so because of their previous relationship, I think that is what led to the Bears making this decision with their general manager, Ryan Poles, in addition to, Brett Veach, and then working together all those years when they did revamp the offensive line literally 4 years ago. So all of this context matters. But I do want people to understand that, like, yeah, you could ask for this year's draft pick, but is that pick going to be actually more valuable than a 4th-round pick? The answer was going to be no. or there was not going to be a pick. So now you need to focus on next year, and maybe, as some people have suggested in the comments, maybe they use that 4th pick next year for something this year. That might be a little bit more difficult given that it's next year's pick, but you at least got something in return, and Joe Thuney is going to a team that can actually offer him a contract extension when the Chiefs really had no chance to really do that. Therefore, I don't even think there were many conversations about that once the team realized we need to keep Trey Smith. He is the younger option. He is the better option right now, even though Joe Thuney is an all-time great who will one day be in Canton. We might as well get something now versus having him play out the final year of his deal and getting nothing next year.
With all that context, Seth, if I read the Chief of the North newsletter correctly, this also still doesn't leave you feeling particularly good. Why is that?
If I could have a little bit of runway to talk about Thuney for a second before talking about what's next, would be good. Because I think what's really easy to have happen here in a fast pace, every time you switch me to where I'm in Nate's box appearance thing, I almost say something that ends my career. And so I don't know what it'd be, but I know it'd be bad. So no, wait, hey, woo. Oh,
what if we have my name? I don't know what that means. No, take your Joe Thuney runway. Wax poetic about this.
Yes, please give this man his flowers while he's still not in the country.
It's always so easy for us to immediately move on to what's next, and that makes sense. You know, that's what's going to be on our minds. This is the team building time of the year. I wrote about Joe Thuney today on the Chief of the North newsletter, and I just wrote that Joe Thuney is a machine. And so one thing that I did just to demonstrate that in a good way, I used NFL Pro to basically randomly select a snap from the last 3 seasons. And it happened to actually be a touchdown to Travis Kelce, which I thought was kind of nice in the Bills playoff game, where it's just a random pass pro snap. And it happened to be him one-on-one against Ed Oliver, who tries everything in his power. He has a great pass rush plan, and nothing works. He uses all the logical counters. He tries to bull rush Joe Thuney, and some people might wrongly think, oh, Thuney's vulnerable to a bull rush from the interior. Not nearly as true from the interior. It doesn't work because his feet are perfect. Okay, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this. I'm going to try to slap those hands to the side and go around him because his balance is going to be off because he's really anchoring against the bull rush, but it doesn't matter because his feet are perfect and he perfectly resets his balance and resets his hands underneath your hands. And then, oh, no, maybe I'll try to speed rush around him then. No, he's just going to push you wide. If you pick snap after snap after snap, game after game, week after week, year after year, Joe Thuney always looked the same on film. The only exception were a couple times where he was playing really hurt or when you throw him at left tackle. Joe Thuney, I think the best way to say this is they signed a left guard to a market-setting extension and I can't say not one. No reasonable fan will say anything other than he earned every dollar he got. You know how hard that is to do? I've seen more people bothered by Chris Jones's contract, and Chris Jones is on his way to Canton, than Joe Thuney's. That's how good he was for the Chiefs. They needed an adult in the room in 2021. Things were falling apart. They needed to have a position that, and you know what? For all the stuff with the contract acrimony later on, Orlando Brown Jr. deserves credit for this too. They needed to have 2 guys that they could kind of fire and forget. And Joe Thuney, they missed on Trent Williams. There's a sliding doors thing there that's kind of interesting. Joe Thuney, they were willing to kind of quote unquote overspend on a non-important position because they were like, we're rebuilding the line. We need a spot with a guy that we can just line up there immediately and can just go do whatever we need and be on an island and all those things. And Joe Thuney did all that and more for 4 years.
Yes.
Almost never missed a snap. Played so excellently. One thing I would push back on, and Trey's a younger player. Joe Thuney is still better than Trey Smith. His film 2024 is better than Trey Smith's 2024 film. Now, can that change? Yes, because Trey Smith's an ascending player. He's got a little ways to go before he's as good as Joe Thuney in pass pro. Because Joe Thuney is perfect in pass pro.
Correct.
Sometimes he loses, sure, but it takes a Herculean effort or, again, throwing him at the wrong position. He deserves his flowers. Do the Chiefs go back-to-back and then knock on the door of a three-peat without Joe Thuney? Maybe because they have Patrick Mahomes. But I bet you if you asked Patrick Mahomes, he'd say absolutely not.
Right.
And it should really be remembered. He should be remembered as providing so much stability. I would be willing to bet if you talk to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith about Joe Thuney, they would say, no, that dude, it's probably the way Patrick Mahomes talks about Alex Smith. Only more so because they were with him for 4 years. It's awesome stuff. He deserves every flower he gets. I hope he goes on to have 3 more elite seasons in Chicago that leaves Kansas City fans saying, well, why couldn't we just give him a 2-year extension to make that cap hit work? I hope he does that, and I think there's a chance he does. As an undersized guard, there's a chance the drop-off's coming as he loses a little power. But he deserves all the credit. And then Brett Veach, it's a time of the year where everyone hates their general manager for the most part, unless you won the Super Bowl. Brett Veach, to his credit, quote-unquote overpaid for a guy, got everything you could possibly want out of it, and then got at the end of it a 4th-round pick rather than nothing. And because he's been in the league so long, by the way, the compensatory pick would have been, I think, like a 5th at most, because that comes into the formula if someone's been in the league for that long.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I forgot to mention that. Yes, that like losing him next year, you just you're kicking the can down the road in a negative way, more so than I don't think they were ever going to really offer him a contract extension. So if you know that,
yeah, they got everything they could get, and that one of the best free agent signings the Chiefs have maybe ever made. Now it's only a 4-year one, but if you're just going based on the one contract when you judge a free agent signing, I would argue it's better than Tyrann Mathieu. It's better than Justin Reed. You got 4 years of elite play.
I was just about to say Justin Reed about to be up there, kids. And look, I know.
You know what, Nate?
I know. I didn't mean for it to, I know I say things here, and I appreciate you guys putting it out there because we obviously appreciate the audience and the viewership. And hopefully, as I'm telling you things in real time as best I can with the information I have and trying to surmise what the future might look like, it's a projection. It's not a prediction. It's a projection as of what was it? Tuesday? As of Tuesday, it's unlikely. We can talk about all those reasons, but we got to move on to other topics. I did not mean that to say that was going to be news to Justin Reed, but I'm sorry. Like, what else can I say? I appreciate Justin Reed, just like I appreciate Charles Omenihu. Now I'm bouncing around too much, Josh. I love Charles Omenihu. I am.
What did Charles tweet?
Fully invested in Charles Omenihu's future. Fully. He is my number one on a freaking board. Where is this man going? Because kids, I don't know. All right. Now that may actually help the Chiefs because I don't know. Justin Reed's got a contract. Okay. It's just a matter of do the Chiefs want to match that contract, which I would say probably unlikely given their situation, as we've talked about throughout the course of whatever weeks now. So I didn't mean for it to be news to Justin Reed. If that happens, I'm sorry. But when you look at the big picture, as I project things out, understanding at the time that Joe Thuney might not be back, but I didn't say that. I'm projecting things as best I can while also trying to give you information, knowing I don't make the decisions. All right, that's them. But I'm here to help guide you through it all. Also knowing, to Seth's point, they traded, not traded, but they swapped. You could argue their greatest free agent signing in Tyrann Mathieu and replaced him with a better free agent player signing in Justin Reed. That's a fact. Okay. So rarely do you find the second tier high mid-tier free agent, pay him accordingly, and the contract never looks terrible. That's Justin Reed. Now, whether he will come back or not, I'm not sure. It just appears as of Tuesday, and even as of Thursday, it appears unlikely because a team can't outbid the Chiefs. It's just a matter of, do the Chiefs want to get in a bidding war? When I just reported whatever yesterday, and this is where it gets tough. Hey, Seth, who you want, Justin Reed or Ronnie Stanley?
I'm really afraid that anything I say is going to get aggregated by, someone. I prefer Ronnie Stanley over Justin Reed, Minnesota Chiefs fan.
Seth, who do you prefer, Seth? T. Higgins or Nick Bolton?
There you go. Say it. Say his name.
I mean, the choices have to be made.
Yes.
I want to talk about this choice with you, Seth, because I'm not letting you back off of this one. I need you to stand on your take here with me because I need you to represent things you've already written here on the Joe Thuney trade. Because league year's coming. Tuesday's going to be chaos. Next week's going to be chaos. We're going to try to keep up. But, Seth, you would not have franchise tagged Trey Smith.
Right.
You would not have given him the contract that we believe the Chiefs are offering him. Nate said,
Correct.
You're shooting around 23-ish million. I think your cutoff was around 21. And you would not have traded Joe Thuney in this deal.
Right.
I want you to make the case as to what you would have done and why your plan A is diverging from where the Chiefs went at the guard position.
Sure. Right. And just to be clear, before people think that, this, that, or the other thing, what I said was, they do it this way. I'm not going to scream, but what I would have done, I would have talked to Thuney about an extension. I think he would have been a cheaper extension than Trey Smith will be because of his age, right?
Correct.
Now, he also had a little more leverage in certain ways, but not really because the franchise tag versus that really high cap hit for Thuney, it's kind of a wash. What they could have done is they could have approached Joe Thuney, said, look, you're 32, which, by the way, people stop saying he turns 33 in November, okay? Right. Like, that is 8 months from now. Let's not, that actually bothered me because I saw that all over Twitter. He's 33. No, he's not. Like, you don't have to be. He's 32.
It's not like his birthday is later this month when Ronnie Stanley will turn 31.
Or Trey Smith.
Yeah, he's just younger.
Oh, okay. So I genuinely, Nate, every now and then you say something and I'm like, man, I don't know. But now I know. But yeah, no, Trey Smith is younger. He's also not as good. Now, maybe he will be, but that's a projection. Joe Thuney is a better pass protector than Trey Smith. And this is not a shot at Trey Smith. It's because Joe Thuney is one of the best, 2 pass protectors in the league at the position. It's not that close. Now, it's closer than this for a lot of other players because Trey Smith is good, but it's not that close. What I would have done is I would have approached Joe Thuney about an extension that maybe hits, about $20 million a year, something like that, significantly lowers his cap hit for the 2025 season, and then allows you to have a relatively reasonable price, 26, 27, and then you've got, maybe some fake out year the next year. I think guards generally age pretty well. I think that would have been fine, and I would have let Trey Smith walk in free agency, go towards the compensatory pick formula. That's what I would have done. Doesn't mean I don't value Trey Smith. I think Trey Smith's a terrific player. If I had my druthers, I would also say, hey, Clark, jump it up to first in cash spending and keep them both. Let's get nuts. Let's do something weird.
You might be asking a lot.
Yeah. But
now,
so I want to be clear. The reason I would have done that is because I think Joe Thuney being an elite pass protector and solid run blocker is more valuable to the Chiefs than Trey Smith being a solid pass blocker and an elite run blocker. Now, I'm not freak. Trey Smith is so good that I'm not freaking out about it. But that's one reason I would have gone that route.
I'm just asking the question: where's the cliff? Because the cliff's coming, kids, and that's that'll
right.
Be
and if he's only 80% as good at pass blocking in 3 years, he'll be at Trey Smith's level at it. So there you go.
Well, I'm just asking.
And the cliff is a legit question, and that's where it becomes. That's why age matters. And so I get why they're doing what they're doing. I even wrote about that. I understand it. I don't like it. It's not what I would have done, but I don't. When I say I don't like it, I mean I don't like trading Joe Thuney. I'm thrilled at the idea of Trey Smith being in Kansas City for 4 or 5 years. And so that's really, to answer the question, that's what I would have done. And so I should not be reading the comments right now. And so now, Josh, I'm done answering the question you've asked me. And so, sorry, other person who wanted me to not talk while answering the question. That comment annoyed me. I'm going to be quiet for a minute because I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret here in a minute.
It's fine.
Let's just all be quiet while we get our second break out of the way nice and early. When we come back, we need to make the case for how the Chiefs' offensive line gets better from here in 2025.
Should I answer questions?
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
So here's another part of this that is extremely relevant to the immediate. Long-term, Trey Smith's younger than Joe Thuney. I'm just going to protect Seth from himself here and get him out of the box. Trey Smith is the younger player, ascending player. Joe Thuney, a better player, an older player, theoretically a plateauing and then descending player. That's all well and good. But we mentioned the name earlier that is actually the guy that's relevant to the left guard change right now.
Yes.
And that is Joe Thuney to Kingsley Suamataia, who we have seen play at guard in Week 18, which was 50% as much time as we've seen him play at left tackle when he got 2 games out there before the Chiefs decided, nope, this second rounder we traded up for is actually a guard. I'm glad that he has a spot in the lineup. I'm cool with, I said this after the Trey Smith franchise tag. If there is any value in Kingsley, it needs to happen in 2025. It needs to start now, because if you're going to say, hey, it's a second round pick, this was the case for Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey to an extent also. But it was like, well, you got this rookie contract, so maybe if it's a less valuable position, it's still worth the premium pick because you've got a good player, underpaid, team control, all that. Well, Kingsley's got to play for that to be a value of his, and it seems like he's going to now. But, Nate, it feels like the next domino here is clearly the guy who will be to Kingsley Suamataia's left. And please correct me if I'm giving Kingsley the left guard job too quickly, but I don't think I am.
It's his job.
Which is
as of now. I mean,
what could possibly go wrong with handing him a job without an open competition?
I think
he's the projected left guard, Seth.
And I think there's a really, really, really good chance the Chiefs are nice and patient with Kingsley at guard. I think he'll get at least the first 2 games of 2025.
Quick,
and then,
is there
Mike
an elite
Caliendo will get the job.
Yeah, is there an elite defensive tackle on the?
Yes.
Now Kingsley, by the way, projects physically as like, whoa, that's like an incredibly athletic guard with incredible size, all this stuff. Some of the things he struggled with in terms of footwork isn't going to be as important from the interior, where he can use his proportionality and his upper and lower body strength combination a little bit better. So
alternatively,
anyway,
Brett Veach, you want to get really creative here. Do you know how the Chiefs could solve their left tackle position today?
No.
Trade for Trey Hendrickson. Done. You've gotten the boogeyman out of Kingsley's face. Kingsley Suamataia is your left tackle again, and now Trey Hendrickson is replacing Charles Minahu or whatever. I don't think that'll happen, but apparently the Bengals are fixing their ghastly defense this offseason. They're fixing their defense by firing Lou Anarumo and trading away Trey Hendrickson.
Getting rid of their best player.
Masterful gambit, guys. That's going to work.
And Sam Hubbard was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
I do not need to be here any longer.
And I was like, you know what, Sam? I watched Hard Knocks. I understand.
I get it.
I get it.
Well, at least they've got T. Higgins locked up. Oh, they still don't. That's crazy. Anyway.
And hey, what about that Chase? What about that Jamar Chase guy? Is he locked up too? No? Okay.
I'm sure they're working on it.
They're working on it.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
But Trey Hendrickson notwithstanding, leaving Kingsley at guard for the time being.
By the way,
what this does do is it gives the Chiefs a very highly paid center, a very highly paid right guard, essentially a highly paid right tackle for 1 more year, a rookie contract at left guard, and a question mark at left tackle. We've already written about this in The Athletic, but where does this leave the Chiefs now? Has this narrowed down their options, or is there someone lining up in their sights right now at left tackle?
they have options. As I reported yesterday, they're gonna try. You know, I'm not saying they're gonna be successful, but you guys wanted to know what's next, and I have reported that they will target Ronnie Stanley, who, much if not anybody will tell you, is the best left tackle currently available. Now, I was on 96.5 The Fan yesterday morning with Dusty Likens and Bob Fesco, and Bob made an interesting point. Oh, you're doing this trade as soon as possible because, you know, Joe's not in the country and it's past the franchise deadline. Now, I don't think Ronnie said he was ever going to be franchise tag, but he could have been. Now,
and the Ravens are presumably still interested in bringing him back, right?
Correct.
As far as we know.
Correct. So you will either have some back and forth, you know, send a Raven with a little message.
I like that.
Send it out in the world, okay? And see if it gets to Ronnie Stanley or whoever he represents.
I'm afraid of a little Paul Revere getting to him first with a bigger bag of money too, though, in terms of the metaphors.
That happened. I'm not saying that the Chiefs cannot get outbid. I'm just saying that
Patriot, Seth. Patriot.
Yeah, right.
We're sending a Raven, we're sending a Patriot to Ronnie Stanley.
You know, one could argue that Paul Revere was very unpatriotic because he was rebelling against his country.
Yeah, real bootlicker take from Seth. Unsurprisingly, you're overdue for one.
Do you want tea, Seth? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm just saying things, Nate. Honest to God.
You telling me you want me to go? By the way, this is
on me.
Kiss.
I apologize, Josh.
This one is on you.
This is on you. You telling me now? I sound like Stephen A. You telling me you want me to go across that big body of water, and you want to tax me? No, I'm taxing you.
Unfortunately, that is also how the Chiefs had to communicate with Joe Thuney to tell him he got traded.
Sent a Raven over the Atlantic. That thing was exhausted by the time it got there. Man, it's lucky that thing made it.
Hey guys, we just been going through some of the record booking. We ain't got no money from y'all. What y'all doing over there? Huh? I guess we're gonna have to send the troops.
Yeah, just so you guys are aware, my wife is currently asking me if you guys have a new skincare regimen, and she was like commenting on both of you, and one person got left out of whose skin looks great. So thank you, babe. I love you too.
I actually do, Jazz, but it's still a little bit of a work in progress. I'm still trying to. I'm 30 now. I feel like I should have my skincare kind of figured out, and I'm still pimplier than I'd like to be. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Look,
you guys look great.
Thank you. It's the change of seasons that always gets me going from, you know.
Thanks, Seth. Hey, by the way, I really like your hoodie.
You mean this KCSN hoodie? That's
I was trying to come up with something that I could compliment back to you.
Yeah, I know. I'm ignoring that, Josh. The last time you tried to actually compliment me, I cut you off midstream because I didn't realize you were about to say something sincere, and you have not gone back to the well since then. So that's been fun. Just on a quick note, I want to hear more about Ronnie Stanley. Yes.
Okay. Now, Ronnie Stanley is an option. I've been doing this a long enough time to know that what I'm about to say is very true, and you should hold that to your bosom, ladies and gentlemen. Hold it near dear to your bosom. You do not trade.
Grasping my bosom.
You do not trade Joe Thuney if you ain't got a plan.
Yes.
Yes. Now
I want to let you cook.
Now that could be a multi-dimension plan. That can be a multi-tier plan. I'm not trying to get you into AA just yet, but look, there's, this is where we are, kids. You do not trade Joe Thuney if you're not improving left tackle. Okay. So if you do one and can't do the other, then the plan has failed. It is a failure. There is no in between. It is pass fail. Right now, it's incomplete. You've done step one. What is step two? Is it Cam Robinson? I don't know. Is it Ronnie Stanley? They would love to make that work. Okay, because Ronnie Stanley is plug and play. Yes. Nate over here drinking his blackberry refresher and trying to give us some tea about Ronnie Stanley. Thank you, Alyssa. I appreciate you recognizing game is the game, and they done got me with this blackberry, boy. Woo-hoo! Now, other people in the comments have asked me, hey, Nate, I heard your buddy, your dear friend, Robert Mays, said some interesting information about a guy who has my name in Taylor Decker. Now,
he did. I was meant to ask you about this, and I forgot about it.
Now, if you...
real quick. Robert Mays, Athletic Football Show, throws out Taylor Decker as a potential trade target candidate. I think it was I've been him, Derek Klassen, talking about the picture, and I went, oh, Taylor Decker. Okay, Nate, Taylor Decker.
So, let's say you don't want to pay Ronnie Stanley a certain amount. Let's say he goes back to the Ravens, okay? Now, you would have to have made some channels that are so deep in my back that you would have had to have known there could be other options available to you. Okay, what are you willing to give up, guys? That's the question now. What are you willing to give up in terms of money and years? In my understanding, as of right now, hey Ronnie, what are the Ravens offering you? What if we gave you another year?
Oh, that felt worse than another million. I was kind of expecting you to say another million.
Now we can do that too, but I'm just saying, what if you want security? You want to keep playing in the league? You want to play with a Super Bowl contender? What if we gave you another year? What if we gave you more money? What if we gave you both? When it comes to Taylor Decker,
what if you gave you one of Josh's dogs?
Well, so I'm going to throw myself in front of the moving train at this point to just go ahead and make myself the martyr for this new metric. We are talking about left tackles who are older than me.
Yes, and
I am the new cutoff.
I think if I ask most Chiefs fans, do you want a plug and play guy or do you want to develop a guy? I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is in the Chiefs front office.
Yes.
So if you're gonna get weaker at left guard, potentially. Most likely, you better make left tackle better, a strength. And so, when it comes to Taylor Decker, are you going to give up a second round pick? You want to give him that Titans pick?
Let me just on a side note,
ask yourself these questions while these names pop up, because those are the conversations that are happening across the NFL, not just in the Chiefs.
Is Taylor Decker on the market?
I don't know, but if you offer a certain,
anyone's available. But that's interesting to me because just on a side note, Taylor Decker can play.
Of course.
I think the idea was that they drafted the British Columbian tackle in last year's draft. That's a 4th round pick. You got to, and the Lions are playing meaningful football. I wouldn't say they're in clean out the shop and retool mode. But yeah, I hadn't heard his name until Mays mentioned it.
That's interesting to me because let me tell you, Taylor Decker can play. That dude can really play. And you change the dynamic in certain ways in terms of now he's 30. So, it's kind of one of those things where it's okay, well, if 32 is an issue, then is 31 an issue?
Decker's 31.
Yes.
He's 31?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, okay, is he... I can't.
He'll be 32 in training camp.
There you go.
Okay. So this is I don't know why we're suddenly saying NFL players' ages the way 19-year-olds do. Well, I'll be 20 in July. Okay, just tell me your age.
Taylor Decker is 31 years and 195 days old. What's your point?
Thank you. So Taylor Decker and Ronnie Stanley last year, in my opinion, I've looked at both of them a little bit, not a ton. I think Decker's a little bit better run blocker, but I think they're roughly equivalent. They're both good left tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be interesting to me. The Decker thing is interesting. So, whatever options they have, I do agree with Nate on one huge thing. Josh, can we do our favorite game of Seth read something he wrote on the internet?
Yeah.
And full screen to you, my friend.
Sure.
Make it happen.
All right. I wrote about the options that the Chiefs had at left tackle, but what I just said is this. The short story is that if you're going to cut ties with Thuney, you'd better bring in more of a sure thing at left tackle to even things out. A line of Stanley, Suamataia, Humphrey, Smith, Taylor is one that has a very, very high ceiling and could make Chiefs fans forget all about the problems of last season. A line that consists of a rookie or a question mark at left tackle, that at least creates the appearance of a full-fledged step backwards. And frankly, given that for 2 years running, a significant roster flaw has genuinely affected both Mahomes' play and the offense as a whole, that is not something Veach and Reed can let happen without voices for all the success they've had, getting louder about certain roster holes, making life impossibly tough on QB1. I felt really good writing that. I wrote that. Yeah, it felt good. It felt good. That's all, Josh. Thanks for the thing.
Okay, very good. I gave you a new layout there. I'm really just
you're having fun.
My thing is that, when Seth gets bored, he reads the comments, and now when I get bored, I get to change how Seth looks on video. It's a really good idea.
we both have destructive hobbies.
That's true.
But
this is mine.
That is the big thing. Like Nate said, you better have a plan. And if that plan means getting more of a sure thing at left tackle, okay. I can live with that. I can live with a significant downgrade at left guard if you get a significant upgrade at left tackle. I can live with that. And again, Kingsley Suamataia, don't know if Creed and Trey have given him Duke Manyweather's number. Man, I hope they do, because he's got some work to do on his hands and feet. And man, Duke does good work with that stuff. You could have a line with a very high ceiling, or you could have a line with giant question marks on the left side.
With that being kind of the jump-off point, it is dangerously close to the beginning of the tampering period, and we are dangerously close to an hour already in this episode because, major trade of the Chiefs voted on MVP, asterisk. It's, they got tired of giving it to Mahomes. But it's been a really busy 48 hours or so, which has left Seth's part 2 of the If I Were Brett Veach series over in the Chief of the North newsletter, keeps bumping that sucker down, because this was not where you would have started, and you wrote that before the trade came down. But ultimately, a whole bunch of those things hold true. Seth, I will ask, I will offer, I may beg for you to just leave the offensive line out of this, because we've heard your angles on a whole bunch of those things. But as we're here talking about Charles Omenihu and Tershawn Wharton and Justin Reed, Nick Bolton, I just happened to pick a bunch of defensive guys. The wide receiver room also a different deal. Let's go defense first, since we've been talking about the O-line so much. Were any of those guys that you slotted in your bring back or bargain bin or let walk results, did anything surprise you going through this exercise, or do you think any of your takes on those guys will surprise the voyeurs?
I think people will know that my If the Price is Right, starting with Charles Omenihu, I don't think that'll surprise anyone. And what I mean, if the price is right means different things for different players, right?
Correct.
If the price is right for Drew Tranquil meant something very different for if the price is right for Charles Omenihu, because they play different positions, etc. So if some team is willing to give Omenihu $20 million a year based on the potential he's shown, great. Good for him. He deserves it. That's not something the Chiefs can do. So I don't think that'll surprise anyone. My take on Trey Smith won't surprise anyone. I think one thing that might surprise people is looking at the roster as it's currently constructed. If they're not going to be aggressive about acquiring a defensive tackle, Tershawn Wharton is more important than I think people realize, because he was pretty solid last year. Took another step forward as a pass rusher. Took like 60% of the snaps. He's a guy that you're losing a lot of snaps if you lose him and Omenihu. So I think that would be one that would surprise people. And then, then I found myself, the other thing that surprised me is how quickly I got to bargain bin only and how many good players were on that. Justin Reed and Nick Bolton were both on there. And this is where I'd like to point out, bargain bin only means something different with guys like that. Justin Reed bargain bin would be a different price than Mike Pennell bargain bin. By the way, bring back Mike Pennell. Just do it. It'll be easy. He played well last year. Let him take a third of the snaps, and then draft a nose tackle. This is not hard. Anyway.
And there's no bargain binning for Mike Pennell. You just pay Mike Pennell money. Like, you just
it's just like, Mike, hey, you know that thing we did last year? Let's do that this year. He earned it.
Very different to Bolton and Reed or any of these guys.
Yeah. And there's a chance Tershawn Wharton gets a heftier contract than I think people anticipate because of his athleticism and the fact that I think
just paid this dude.
Yeah,
that's the other thing that I was gonna. He's in an interesting class of defensive tackle, not in even the year, but in the quality. Like, I think this defensive tackle market really had two guys at the top. Now it's just one, and then some really good players with. It'd be really easy to talk yourself into Tershawn Wharton still having some upside left.
Yes, especially if you're coming at it from another perspective, because he's got a trait.
Yep.
And his trait is really, really, really high level athleticism. Now, here's the deal. If they bring back like Colin Saunders, then do you need him as much? I don't think you do. So that would be interesting. But I was surprised how he ended up there. But I would just note Justin Reed and Nick Bolton both being on my bargain bin only. That gives me some pause because I think you can lose Nick Bolton on this defense, and you got Drew Tranquill. I think you're going to be fine. If you lose him and Justin Reed, I don't always buy into coaches coach and players play. Jaden Hicks was like the nerve center for his college defense. They've got smart guys in that, Trent McDuffie can be the communicator back there. Yeah. All the defensive backs are back there together. But losing Reed and Bolton, when both of them had some very specific roles for Spags, it surprised me how much that made me hesitate. I almost changed where they rated. But again, it's a matter of team makeup. I like Justin Reed. I wish they'd extend him last year. That's what I wrote in last year's if I were Brett Veach, is extend Justin Reed. And we wouldn't be having this conversation. But they drafted Jaden Hicks. He looked good. Chamari Connor's better as a safety. And Brian Cook is their safety for next year. It's a numbers game. Same thing with Nick Bolton. Right. If Drew Tranquill didn't exist, that would probably be a different conversation. But he does. So there you go. Right. So honestly, I'm kind of, I can't wait to get to the next phase of things. But in terms of in-house free agents, I was surprised. I was surprised how quickly I got to bargain bin only. And I was surprised how many guys I listed as comfortable walking away, considering how many snaps they're losing. That made me feel, honestly, going through that. And the number of guys, I was like, it's not going to bother me that much. I think they can replace the production. Last year's roster really was pretty flawed. The fact that they made the Super Bowl is a testament to the greatness of the foundational five and
core nine.
The core nine.
I want to interject a quick a take before we end up in the tampering period of just like something I think they could do that I think I would feel okay about. When you also think back to drafting Nick Bolton and the role that he took in this defense, or even them signing Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reed and the role they took immediately in year one, but really for the younger guys.
Yep.
The Chiefs have done an incredibly good job at getting rookie performances out of defenders. And some of those guys are drafted highly and some of those guys weren't. And there's learning curves for your L'Jarius Sneeds to Jalen Watsons and all of those type of those corners of varying success in the back half. They weren't all day one starters. They weren't all Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis, guys who were first-round picks. But, I don't know what Nate's looking at on his phone. But, you got to save the news, Nate. But, when the Chiefs have relied on those guys, the results have been good. When the Chiefs have relied on a lot of those early rookies on the offensive side, much more mixed results. Certainly your tackles. The interior offensive line's been great. Wide receivers have been recently more hits than misses.
Yes.
But it's also a process where I think they would have loved to have let Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy take even longer to get into being as large of a part of the offense as they were. What I'm thinking about right now is in this draft class, you take a running back somewhere in the middle and just pound the defense.
Yes.
If you do,
spend money on the offense. Sorry.
Yes.
Right.
Spend your money on left tackle, and we're going to talk about Hollywood and the receivers you don't care to bring back, and I'm going to make Nate grunt into a microphone about some other wide receivers who are available. But if you say, if you just told me, and I'm still being vague about left tackle because I'm not 100%, I'm not over the moon over the idea of Ronnie Stanley, but like he would be an improvement, right? If you give me Ronnie Stanley and Hollywood Brown and fourth round running back, and everybody else is a defensive pick because they legitimately top like in 2025 and in the future, the Chiefs need a defensive tackle, a defensive end, a linebacker, a cornerback, and a safety. Guys, I think that's all of them. Like the entire defense always needs more pieces at every level. And especially right now, especially where you don't know where you're going to be on George Karlaftis. FAU didn't take that jump to be the guy that replaces Karlaftis. Like that effort ongoing, just something I want to plant now in early March as we look ahead to this next couple of months. I'm kind of in that headspace of I'd pay for offense and draft for defense. I think the Chiefs have shown that they can do it that way. We'll have a lot of time to break that down more as we go. Seth, you are parting ways with a tremendous percentage of the wide receiver room. Hollywood Brown is in a different class. Why him, and why the mass exodus of a bunch of those other receivers? And then we got to get Nate talking about wide receivers.
Before we start that,
this was never going to come back to me, Josh.
Two wide receivers just to keep in mind for the Chiefs. They would love to retain Hollywood Brown. Don't be surprised if Juju Smith-Schuster comes back as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be like the least surprising thing to ever happen. I will be shocked if they don't bring him back and have him play 45-50% of the snaps. That's just Andy can't help himself. Hollywood Brown for me, he is in theory on paper a good fit with what Worthy can do. He's a good fit with what Rice can do. Worthy is your guy, shallow and deep, right? He's working on his intermediate stuff. That's actually where he made most of his hay in college. So I think he'll do well with that. Rashee Rice is your underneath and mostly underneath an intermediate guy. Getting Hollywood Brown, a guy who can threaten at all three levels, but isn't necessarily like your bubble screen type guy. It's a way to have the offense be faster. I think the concern that people would have is, well, Brown was on the roster during these playoffs and the offense did not look particularly fast. Well, yeah, because they kept playing not as fast dudes over him. First play of the Super Bowl is a really creative RPO that gets Hollywood Brown the ball, boom, first down, and then they just did not go back to it. I get a lot of other things went on. That's the one thing is Hollywood Brown better in this offense in theory than in practice? We don't know because he only had a few games to get geared up, had a huge portion of targets compared to his snaps, and then the playoffs started and suddenly he vanished. So that does give me pause. In terms of the rest of the receivers, I could see bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster or Justin Watson. Like if I
get one though, right? You get one ticket back.
Yes, take one. And if I had to pick, I'd take Watson because he's got more speed down the field. So if you need a guy who's going to line up the line of scrimmage, eat some of the contact, runs all the picks well, does those things, give it to one of those guys, but it's got to be cheap. And you've got to sit down with Andy and say, hey, you're not going to give this guy 60% of the snaps again, are you? If we bring him back, and we all know how that would go. So
then Nate, on just sort of the wide receiver market as a whole right now, there are a lot of familiar names that are going to be free agents. A lot of those guys are 30 and up. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins, one of those guys. Devontae Adams is officially out there now. The trade market name that just popped up since the last show, Tyler Lockett, got cut. We've already grunted about him in past episodes.
I have talked about him, yes. Uh-huh.
But DK Metcalf wants out of Seattle.
Woo! Here we go.
When I saw that, I thought of two people instantly. Before I thought of Patrick Mahomes, I thought of Seth Keysor, and I thought of Beards McFly. Two people who have been talking about DK Metcalf since they knew who DK Metcalf was.
Right.
And listen, I would love to watch DK Metcalf professionally with this football team. Where are the Chiefs?
Yes.
Nate, don't tell me they didn't make a phone call. They got to call. They got to make these calls.
Yes.
Who are they interested in? What are they interested in? What's the wide receiver picture, Nathaniel?
All right. Now I know Diana put it out there. Look, this is the way the game works, kids. When Diana reports, hey, the Seahawks were like a first and a third, that is dream wishing, kids. That is never, ever going to happen. That's why you put it out there. Now, I don't think any general manager will be dumb enough, or team president or owner will be dumb enough to give a first and a third for DK Metcalf, but it does inform you that, like, we're starting at a third. Who wants to go from a third and higher? when it comes to DK Metcalf. I don't think anybody's going to give this man a first-round pick. That would be, I would argue, a bit unwise. But yes, the Chiefs are sniffing, Now, he wants to be traded with the understanding that he will get a new contract. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you that some things could change if the Chiefs sign Hollywood Brown and trade for DK Metcalf. There's a slim chance both of those things happen. Slim, but we can talk about it for now. I made a contract offer on The Athletic to my buddy in Seattle, Michael Sean Dugard. And look, this is not the best offer, but I'm just saying this is an offer that the Chiefs can probably live with and stomach based on everything I know right now. And I'm asking you, would you be comfortable with this? The Chiefs pick, third round pick, not the Titans pick. You could get up to the Titans pick, but now we're getting frisky. 95th pick in the draft. So hey, better than anything you would get in sort of the compensation, the compensatory formula. 95th pick. We take on his salary. And I think that's where the issue will be. Hey, I gotta trade for him and pay for him. Okay, we're in third round range territory, maybe a second and a third if you got an extra pick. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that could be the Raiders. So just think about that.
I am so fundamentally not worried about DK Metcalf. I'm not worried about any skill position player in Vegas for the next at least 2 years.
I just want you to know that the Raiders could offer more picks and, obviously give him a new contract in a way maybe the Chiefs will not be willing to stomach. But 95th
and Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to him, and I'm here for it.
Hey,
Fantastic.
With bring Devontae Adams back too. Would you be comfortable with the 95th pick for DK Metcalf in exchange for guaranteeing him a 3-year? We're going to rip up your contract right now, DK. They're going to give you 3 years, $85 million, $40 million guaranteed. That is likely the max that you could probably get away with and do some other things in free agency. Now, it will not make DK Metcalf a $30 million player, which is what he wants, but it will make him top of the market, top 10 easily. Also, the number's 12, kids. I'm going to just put it out there. It's 12 now. Stop it. It's 12. 12 to 17. That's the range. You know who I'm talking about. Get it out your mind. 12 to 17. That's the range.
12 to 17. To answer,
I didn't say that.
I would do that in a heartbeat, partly for the fit.
Correct.
What Metcalf does versus what Worthy does versus what Rice does, that is a pretty beautiful fit of skill sets. Now, he's not an incredible fit with the offense with everything, but skill set wise, that would be pretty sweet. So I would do that. And that's where, like Josh said, spend the money on the offense and just draft defense. Clearly, it's not working out. Hey, Ronnie, we're going to give you a call. We're going to give DK a call. Dude, we're out of money. We're going to draft so many defensive players. I would be all in favor of it. I think Metcalf opens up on some routes that Worthy doesn't and Rice doesn't at this point. So I would enjoy that a great deal.
And they structurally, not just as a fit on the field, but a fit in the salary cap. You do still have, I hate to burst your bubble, anybody, but you're probably not worrying about a Sky Moore extension. And you are still a long ways away from having to make a real next step on Rashee Rice and an even longer ways away on Xavier Worthy. Yes. He's got the fifth-year option that'll be in the mix for him.
The reason why you'd be comfortable giving him a 3-year contract is because it does line up with what you will do. Obviously, this is what I wrote in The Athletic. Just imagine DK Metcalf lining up with Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice in the slot and Xavier Worthy going in motion before the ball is snapped.
And then while we're at it, in 2026, he's taking that baton from 87.
Correct. And you would still get 2 years knowing you don't have to pay Rashee Rice, knowing you don't have to pay Xavier Worthy second-year contract money.
I think it makes sense. I think we're going to have a whole lot more to talk about on Tuesday. And both of these guys are going to be writing until the keys break on their various computers. Seth's got like 3 more parts of the Chief of the North newsletter to come out. Is it actually 3 more parts relatively soon, Seth? Are you trying to get you have a 5-parter?
I'm going to write part 3, probably coming out Saturday, what I would do if I were Brett Veach in terms of free agents. And then once free agency is done, then I'll have some film to review, hopefully some fun film to review. That's part of what I cheer for this time of year, honestly.
Of course.
When they sign a guy whose film I'd be psyched to review, that would be fun. So that it's part 3. It's just what I would do with the presumption of the in-house free agents moves that I've suggested would be done. Okay, how could you manage to, sign Ronnie Stanley and still have room to play around with other things? So that's what's coming out in the Chief of the North newsletter. And hopefully I've got fun people to review after, again, Saturday, where I talk about what I would do. Because what I would do, by the way, would start with Ronnie Stanley. And if you can't get there, then you pivot to Cam Robinson and hope that you're not massively overpaying for an above average, but not really good player.
Right. All right, kids. Do you want Nick Bolton to be on the contract with $12 million a year? 12 million, 12, 17, 12 to 17. That's the range, kids. 12. It's 12 now, guys. It's 12. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but 12 to 17, that's what you're working with. Lastly, too, it would behoove the Chiefs. It would behoove the Chiefs to sign Trey Smith to his extension tomorrow. It would really behoove them to do that. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but in a most ideal situation, they would agree to a extension with Trey Smith tomorrow. Again, another piece in their plan for the offseason. Now, because of the franchise tag, you can kick this thing all the way down to July, but you cannot sign Ronnie Stanley. I mean, I shouldn't say it in that. It's very hard. Let me be correct. It's very hard to sign Ronnie Stanley or compete for Ronnie Stanley and not have the cap figures for Trey Smith on an agreed extension that will be signed before or at the start of the new league year. Does that make sense, kids?
Sure.
Yeah, not really.
Come on, man. I'm trying.